Hi guys, so not really a reptile advice, but more the events over the past few days have led to a lot of consternation within the hobby and problems that beset us from all sides as always. Ross Kemp's Tiger King programme aired the other day and, it's caused quite a stir. And it's nothing new. It happens all the time. Whenever we're in the mainstream media, we're painted with a black brush and we're the outcasts of the pet keeping community, and what happened the other day is totally expected. None of any of the experienced keepers, none of us are surprised. This is par for the course. This is exactly what happens. They could have, of course, gone to any number of experienced keepers to offer their insight into how we keep our animals and the husbandry that we offer, but that's not sexy enough. We need a Doylem in a working class mid-terrace with 15 giant pythons because that's ratings. Do we really believe that the production executives and everybody else hadn't sat around thinking about how they can make this more salacious than it actually was? Of course, this is TV. It's got nothing to do with real life, and that's why we mustn't be surprised by it. Obviously, the way that we comport ourselves to the public and the way we put ourselves forward is paramount, because this is how we are going to be able to change the perceptions that this hobby has. And the perception is that we are all toothless trolls dragging our knuckles round, keeping these giant pythons and walking our monitors in a park because we lack a brain. And that's just simply not the case. The amount of fantastic work that's going on through the hobby. This isn't just a video about snakes and adders. This is a video where we can celebrate the good things that happen. We've got Liam Sinclair at Reptiles and Research. We've got Harvey Tweets and the lads at Celtic Reptile. We've got Reptiphiles. We've got Daryl Raw and Francis Koskiri over at Advancing Herpetological Husbandry. We've got Julian Clare and Dave Clements doing their educational DWA programs down at Wrigley's. You've got our channel, 200 plus videos that we've committed to trying to further knowledge. The research and development that is going on by John Courtney Smith and Peter Blake down at Reptile Systems in Arcadia. You have got Roman Murren and Francis Baines doing their vital work looking into the research of UVB. This hobby is not what was portrayed on TV. This is the modern hobby, what we're talking about now. The next generation of the kids, and we've got them coming through here, and we do absolutely everything to be able to put them on the front step and make sure they have an excellent start. The way that our husbandry has developed over the years is changing. More and more animals are being sold as standard with UVB than ever before. Animals that were often problematic with metabolic bone disease and other issues, we're actually beginning to see being cured and stopped from happening. It does, it's removed as a concern because we're providing our shade dwellers or our lower Ferguson level UV lights for these animals that have got highly transmissible skin. People like Gary are the last generation, the old school. And the problem is the people that are running this hobby are old school. They are out of touch. I've seen with great alarm people turning to our perceived head of the hobby to just be absolutely disgusted with the way that facts and research are just sideswiped and disregarded. And if you're too vehement about the husbandry standards, you're an anti and you're one of them. And that simply can't be the way that this hobby is. To return to the previous status quo means that we're not developing and we're not changing. People like Gary do not represent this hobby. That is not my hobby. This man is running a business out of his home, where he is doing home encounters, which means that he is under the purview of the animal activities licensing structures. And that means that all of those animals are in their permanent residence, which puts them onto the higher bracket of AAL standards. None of the vivariums portrayed in the television program were actually of AAL standard. This therefore means that the guy is operating illegally or is breaking the AAL rules, at which point, whatever his local council is, if you gave him an AAL license, you need to hang your heads in shame. If he's operating a business without a license, that's illegal activity. Therefore, also not representing our hobby. They pick people like Gary because that is the optic that they want to go for. What you've got to understand about the optics of this hobby is that we keep things in boxes. That is a hard sell. That is not something that is easy to argue to the layman that we're doing well and that we're doing this animal a favour. That's not something that naturally sits well with animal welfare. So then we have the optics of some divvy with giant pythons sat in a bedroom cupboard, and we've got other people at Advancing Herpetological Husbandry, and not just another box, hugely successful Facebook groups promoting large custom-built enclosures where they can be kept. The sad truth is, if the AAL does visit Gary, or the council visits him regarding the AAL, he won't keep them snakes. Those snakes are rescue fodder. That is another headache for people like Jez and Joe at the Midland Giant Snake Rescue to have to deal with. These are the knock-ons. Those animals cannot be kept for life. If they are part of a business venture, they fall under the AAL. Notice how our representative was either a divvy farmer or a divvy in a council estate, and then their representative was Dr. So-and-so. They could have picked anybody. They could have picked Francis. They could have picked Dr. Tariq Abuzar, one of our leading vets, breeders and herpetoculturists. They could have had any number of examples where all of the salacious content we would have been wise to, and we'd have gone, why are you asking that? You're trying to set us up. You're trying to screw us. And that is obviously what the majority of people will have done when they were approached. And they will have kept knocking on doors until someone said yes. It's hard to be overly mad at Gary. What's happened to Gary is he has been made a pariah thanks to the cutting and slicing of the production. As much as, yes, I think you're a dick, you shouldn't have said what you said, and the fuck were you thinking? Equally, I don't particularly hold it against you, and I haven't got some sort of vendetta, because this was always going to happen. They would cut and slice me if I went on there. They'd cut and slice Francis or Julian or Tariq. It would happen. You know, this is the problem. When you're dealing with the mainstream media, their optic is already preconceived. You have to be incredibly careful about what you do or say. Do not lose faith. This hobby is moving forward and developing, regardless of what the bigwigs aren't doing at the societies, being reactive and not proactive as usual. Let's make a working group after the fact, after it's aired, with no statement made. Absolutely ridiculous, not fit for purpose and useless. This hobby is going places, and it's people on these online Facebook and social media groups that are pushing it forward. That's the faith that we've got to keep. We've got to keep on keeping on. That's all we can do. And don't let programs like this, as much as they are an irritant and they are awful and portray us in a terrible light, that is not our hobby. And that's the line that we've got to keep. This is not our hobby. We want to do things right. We want to teach the next generation of kids how to do it properly, and that is all that matters. Just keep on keeping on and keep the faith. Peace, guys. Cheers.